Hello and welcome to Perfectly Paranormal, episode 36. My name's Annaschmidt and I'm here every week to share with you true paranormal encounters and information about devils, demons and dark energy beings that no one else talks about. I love sharing information that you don't hear anywhere else. And today we're exploring the paranormal connection to house renovations and tradespeople. And this is not an attack on all the tradies out there. I love you to bits. Electricians, plumbers, builders, bricklayers, landscape gardeners, you are all amazing. But sometimes people like me get an energetic insight as to what can be left behind on building sites and how some of my clients have had strange energetic experiences after building jobs on their homes and within their properties. Now, we've got some stories to share today. And our first story looks at a new roof on one of my clients' homes and how weird electrical experiences occurred, alerting Nellie to paranormal presence after the roof was put on. And I've called this story Nellie's New Roof Nightmares. Now, Nellie's home badly needed a new roof, and she'd finally saved up for the work and was really excited to have a brand spanking new watertight roof, replacing the old dilapidated roof currently on her cottage home. And Nellie emailed me a month after having this new roof put on and asked me to take an energetic look into her home, what I call a check-in, and see what was causing the strange, unusual, we call them paranormal happenings. Nellie and I have done a bit of work together and we kind of have an awareness around when something changes in the home and it might be paranormal. Nellie was very tuned in, as I just said, to these strange sudden occurrences that she might feel it could be paranormally triggered in her home, and she was keen to see if she was right. Now, Nellie started having really creepy dreams night after night after night, along with her computer behaving really erratically. Now, the creepy dreams were upsetting her usually peaceful sleep, and they were causing tiredness the following day and just messing with her energy levels. And she also witnessed unusual activity in her home office, as her computer screen would randomly go blank, and this had never happened before. But since this new roof had been put on, this had been happening many, many times in the last 3 weeks. And it was really disrupting her workflow and kind of elevating her stress levels at the same time. Now, these phenomena were totally strange and odd from the normally energetically peacefully settled home that Nellie lived in. And at the time, we didn't put it down to possibly being the tradespeople or the energetic imprints on the roof material, but I was soon to find out. Now, Nellie is a spiritual and psychically open person who is used to the occasional spirit popping in to say hello. But this level of disruption was something else. So the next day I set about doing the pendulum dowsing to get into the nitty-gritty details of what was present energetically and when it happened, because I like to know what type of paranormal beings are present, when they came to the property, what they're attached to, what sort of emotions or trauma, whether it's been created in the home or absorbed. It's quite complicated. It really is a complicated process, but I love the detail. And the detail, the devil in the detail, as they say, actually removes these beings from the home. So as I tuned into Nellie's address and I looked at a picture of her home, this is the way that I open my connection with a property, is that I will verbally ask permission to enter. I will say the address, and I look at a picture of the front of the house. out came the paranormal beings. Like, seriously, they think they can cloak themselves all the time from most people. Most people don't pick up on them or don't want to. I can't help it everywhere I go, whether it's locally, online, through phone calls, texts, emails, wherever I go, on the internet or in person, these paranormal beings just seem to pick up on my presence and either want to come and observe me, or they want help, or they're present because they're attached to something that I've created energetically. Anyway, let's get back to the story. So what I call my paranormal radar, or your spidey senses, whatever you want to call it, your ESP, your psychic abilities, and my dowsing confirmed that there were 5 dark energy beings present within Nellie's home. Now, I'd done a clearing for Nellie within the last 2 or 3 months, and I hadn't heard from her in that time up until the roofing issue. And so I knew she was fine. I knew there was nothing present in the home. Now, these were a tricky lot. They were playing with the electrics and they were messing with the computer screen, and they were also messing with Nellie's mind. And they do that. This is the one wholly solely reason why these energy beings do that, is to get emotional reactions out of people. Because then they can feed off what we create. They're only energetic feeders, the dark, the demonic beings. They're just a different level of heaviness or denseness of energy. Now, they could feel me sensing them. And they started moving about, all in a flurry, like naughty kids who'd been caught in a lolly shop. "Aha!" I said with a big laugh. "I see you. You can't hide. Time to move out." I keep it light when I work with these beings. When you're respectful and you are approachable, you're going to get a far better response than if you go in there wielding swords and pretending you're a demon slayer. Like, seriously, that is just such a ridiculous way to deal with these energy beings. Anyway, that was a topic that I talked about back in episode 5 called The Demon Hunter's Dilemma. Now, what my dowsing found in Nellie's home, along with these 5 energetic feeders, were large build-ups of, now this was in the thousands, rage, hostility, resentment and burdened. Now, these weren't Nellie's emotions. I checked. I asked where they came from. Now, some of them had come from the tradespeople who were busy and they had lots of work on and they were a bit stressed doing the work and they were feeling burdened. But also they came from the actual imprints, the energy imprints from people handling the roofing materials, travelling, picking them up, putting them on trucks, taking them places. If people are in a stressed or an emotional or mental health state when they pick up items, I talk about this all the time, you can leave behind what I call an energy imprint, a frequency attached to that item. And when they build up, that's when the problems start. And these paranormal beings sense these large build-ups. That's when they come to places or people. Now, these build-ups of rage, hostility and so forth came into the home about 3 to 4 weeks ago. Now, that is in the time frame when Nellie had the roof put on. That was the only unusual occurrence that Nellie had within the last 3 to 4 weeks. She doesn't get many visitors. She lives by herself. And rage and all those other emotions that I mentioned, they're just not her. They're just not her trigger imprints that I've picked up before. So tradies, as I call them, it's an Australian word for tradespeople. We shorten things because we're too lazy to say things the long way. So tradies, as I call them, go on to lots and lots and lots of different building sites. Now, this is their job, and they may absorb energetic imprints from different locations into themselves, into their trucks. If they're sensitive to energy, they can pick up these imprints, or they can sometimes carry them from site to site to site, depositing them everywhere they go. Now, tradies are no different to everybody else. Whether you work in an office, on a train, on a bus, you work at a pool, doesn't matter. We all create emotional imprints. What I'm trying to do with today's episode is to highlight, if you have a tradesperson come into your home, they're in your home, walking around your home, on the roof, in the basement, and things start to change afterwards, energetically, and you're aware of what the signs and symptoms are, It may be that that person or group of people have brought in a different frequency into your home. They may have brought paranormal beings into your home. So I'm not giving tradies a hard time. It's just a point of observation for other people out there who might find that something unusual happens in their home after a renovation is done. Simply all I'm doing is just outlining a different perspective about how this works. And the land often has decades, and in some countries around the world, centuries worth of emotional build-up from traumatic experiences. There can be war, flood, famine, human suffering, and sometimes even satanic practices, for example. These imprints, they just simply simmer and bubble away under the surface until absorbed by those who walk on the land, absorbing its energy, whether willingly or subconsciously. Now, you're going to find this little story interesting. This occurred the other day when I was talking to a prospective client about a house clearing. And we were talking about her daughter's swing set. Her daughter had a rather unusual accident. Now, this child is not accident prone. And when the lady sent me the photo of this swing set, the framework of the swing set was built out of timber. Now, this was local timber that had been harvested from a pine forest. The bark had to be stripped back. It had to be handled by a few people, loaded onto trailers and so forth, and then taken to the property and erected into the frame for the swing set. Now, there were 5 demonic beings attached to the timber in that swing set. Now, I checked the land where the swing set had been put up, and I checked the chains and the rubber seat. No issues there. The issue was all within the timber that had been cut down, stored in some places, then transported, then erected by the family into this beautiful frame for the daughter's swing. Now, once I tuned in and found what was there, we looked at the energetic imprints and I outlined everything to the client, and she went, "Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I know who that's come from. I know the location where these imprints have come from. Yeah, I felt pretty creepy around those guys." So just be aware that if you make changes to the land, to the property, to the buildings on the property, and you have lots of tradespeople coming and going, I brought this up today as a point of awareness for those people whose homes feel great and have no energetic issues. You know, the parents feel great, the kids sleep well, the dog's happy, everyone's getting along as normally. And then there's a renovation within the home or on the property, which takes either a short-term or a long-term period. And then suddenly the home occupants start to notice changes in the home's energy, how it feels. The kids wake up screaming with nightmares. The parents feel drained or lethargic. And the dog is suddenly snappy and hiding in strange places. These symptoms, if not medically defined, if it's not a medical issue, can point to an energetic interference. And it needs an energy clearer, someone like myself who can tune in, talk to the land, talk to the building, find out what the problem is. I know that sounds weird. People always say to me, "Why do you talk to the land? You seriously talk to buildings?" And I'm like, yes, they have a vibration. They are a living entity. It's hard for me to explain how that is or why, but I just feel that they want to tell me things. I listen, and the way I do my work, I get very, very good results. Because it's not about me. It's not about my ego and doing my energy work. It's about listening to the land, observing the land, listening to the First Nation elders as I do a lot of work here on the land in Australia. If they want to tell me something, if they want something done a certain way, I'm like, right, absolutely, I will do that for you, as they're working from their realm, as higher vibrational beings are working on the same location. Has to be a holistic approach. So once that consultation with the land and the building has occurred, energy workers can then remove all the detrimental energetic imprints and the paranormal beings, and then the land and the home and the outbuildings, are all happy. They can settle again into a higher state of being. So back in episode 25, I talked about unhappy land and how tradespeople wouldn't turn up for work. Plans would get lost, they were late, and the building process was taking forever. Now, sometimes it's not their fault. From my point of view, I look at things in a different way. Turns out, in that particular location, that the land was upset. It was defiant, right? It had had long-term trauma, and it had long-term build-ups of energetic imprints, coupled with paranormal feeders, because of what the tenants had done on the land previously. And it caused major problems now for the tradespeople, as well as the owners of the property. And it needed some energetic attention, someone like me to come in and understand how it all works, tune in, do the clearing, everything gets back to normal. Now, I have seen this on numerous locations all over the world, including a site in the UK, where I was employed to do a land clearing. This piece of land didn't have any buildings on it yet, other than a small cabin. Now, this beautiful location, like it had a gorgeous stream and there were acres and acres of forest. The family that had moved into this cabin on the site, they were hoping to build a larger house. They wanted to utilise the land with a meditation centre and beautiful gardens that people could walk around. Now, do you think that they could get the building work happening? Nope. The building company that they'd employed were highly reputable. And I wondered if the land had an issue with all the people that were stomping all over it and the renovations. And this was somehow affecting the tradespeople from being able to do their work properly. Now, one last thought came to mind. I wanted to mention this little story. It's just another point of interest to be aware of. A local friend of mine has a great plumber. He's friendly, efficient, he does really quality work, and he has really great prices as well. But whenever he leaves her home, she needs me to go in to do an energetic clearing. She says that she only has a few visitors and there's no kids in the house. Done all the debunking. No one else is bringing in the issues into the house. And I've done lots of work with her, so I know the imprints that we found weren't hers. He had been the only new person in her home in the time period that we looked at. And she said that her cat and dog's behaviour changed in really negative ways. Her sleep patterns became disrupted and the lights in her house would flicker like they were having a paranormal party going on night after night. She was getting just a little bit sick of it. So I'm not judging the plumber. It is simply a point of observation that if someone new comes into your home, sometimes these people have energetic attachments and sometimes they'll hop off and they'll stay in your home. So in episode 37, Angela, who lives in United States, she sent me a message and said, do paranormal beings speak our languages? How do they understand us? How do people like you understand them? So I thought, why don't I do a whole episode talking about how these beings communicate with us and whether they do understand our languages? So thank you for joining me today. And don't forget, if you want to share a paranormal experience just with myself, or you would like me to share one of your experiences through my podcast, you can do a voice recording or you can write out your experience and I will read it exactly as you have written. You can email me at spiritualbeing44@gmail.com. And for information on paranormal house clearing, you can visit my website, Spiritual Being. You will find the address in the description box. And I look forward to sharing this spooky space again with you next week. And remember, life is perfectly paranormal.